I bought 3 acres of land in the high mountain deserts of California, and this is my plan for it. I'm gonna regreen it, rewild it, and bring back the biodiversity to the lands, all while being able to benefit from it myself. I plan on bringing in the community to host workshops and volunteer days, and so that we can all have a piece in rebuilding the land and our connection to the lands. In this episode, I want to show you guys a couple of things that have been thriving, what we're doubling down on, and why we are going to start digging all over the place. But first, look at these nopales. The first thing I thought of was, look at those bite marks off to the side. If you don't know, our purpose is to bring back the biodiversity in a couple of different animals, although all are welcomed, like this guy right here that most will probably be afraid of because it looks like a wasp or some type of bee. But I love how they are appreciating all the plants that we have introduced to the area. If you haven't checked out our other episodes, you must know that we are specializing in native plants. This is for the native plants, the native animals, and rebuilding their home again. And the nopales, the cactus, and the sages have been thriving. But a couple of species that I am really excited about and really focus on are the tortoises. The desert tortoises have been listed as endangered, and one of their favorite foods are these prickly pears, these cactuses right here that give off the fruit that you are seeing that are growing. They love these things. They love the flowers. They love the plant in general. And so we are going to be doubling and tripling down on planting these nopales on the land. Just to give you a walkthrough of what I envision, this is the main road that we created back in episode 2, I believe. Along the sides of this road, it is going to be lined up with the nopales for a couple of reasons. Not only aesthetically, I think it is very pleasing to look at. I love the flowers, and I personally love the fruit, so I would love to harvest that. They are native to the area and require a very, very minimal amount of water in order to grow and give fruit. However, it's also going to serve as a barrier for the animals. I don't want them to be so exposed, especially if I want to bring back the smaller animals. I have to protect them from things like hawks and make it just a little harder for them, but not impossible, because we want them too. We just don't want them to take advantage of this landscape that has been decimated over the past century, and there's no trees, there's no covering, there's no anything here. So it is our goal to build it back up. What you just saw right there was the parking lot, and like I said, we are planning to host a couple of workshops, one of them doing this. And no, not just shoveling random pieces of land. The purpose of this is it's going to be a land work for water, the capturing of water. In the first episode, I believe it was, I taught you guys about the importance of the water being able to penetrate the ground. That is one of the biggest problems that we are facing with this land. So in order to help the land out, we are going to be doing what's called earthworks, which is just working into the land itself, making certain shapes and divots and slopes and things like that in order to dictate where water can go, water can stay, what plants can grow. It's really cool, and I'm going to cover it in this episode and in future episodes and in workshops, of course. But I am no means an expert in this space, a professional in this space. These are just things that come to my mind that I just want to perform. I just want to do the shapes that I make in this video, the shapes that I make in future videos. I want things to look different. I am not basing the slopes off of any math. I'm not basing where I put the slopes off of any math. It is just intuition and being guided by the land itself. Nothing in nature is completely identical. So when it came to these things, these earthworks, these swales, these just holes in the ground, really, I wanted them to all look unique. I do not like cookie cutter. I do not like the rows that the colonial Western society just absolutely adores. I hate it, to be very honest with you. I like sporadic. I like just natural. Go to a forest and look and see what it looks like. And I'm saying this because I am a forest person. I am Puerto Riqueño. I love Puerto Rico and just that landscape. So that's what I'm used to. Here is the semi-finished product. I did smooth a little bit of the edges out to allow the water to come in more easily, but this is the perfect example of something you can do on the land to help it retain water. As you can see, it's about a couple feet deep. This is going to allow the water to come down into multiple different depths, and it allows water to keep flowing. So when there is a rainfall, the water isn't just floating at the top and running off. It is actually getting into the soil, being held somewhere in this little hole. It's going to allow plants to really thrive too. Just think of it as ways to pool water, ways to hold water so that the plants can actually absorb the water. I got the inspiration to do this from a couple of things. One, I am a gardener, so whenever I transplant things, I naturally put it below like the ground level, because I know that water is going to sink into it. But also from this project that they are doing out in the Sahara Desert, where they are creating a so-called green wall to stop the desert from expanding. More often than not, when we see a desert, it is unnatural. It is just the result of loss of biodiversity, loss of organic material, loss of the trees and the vegetation in the area, and the wind and the sun combining to do this this huge amount of damage to the soil, huge amount of damage to the land itself. That's why the deserts are so barren, and Earth does not like lack of diversity. Maybe Western society likes lack of diversity, but nature does not like it. It loves diversity. It loves, different species, thousands of thousands different of species coexisting, within an environment. And it is the exact opposite of what we preach as a society, where everything that moves is considered a pest, or everything that grows that we don't grow is considered a weed. And so everything is just, killed off, and the diversity is just diminished. Even like I said, in Western society, just look all across the board, it does not favor diversity. Now with this earthwork, it is going to look different than the first one. All three of them are going to look completely different from each other. This one right here, I'm experimenting with like a trench of some sort. I'm experimenting with all of them to see which one better retains water and which one is the best growing medium for any future plants. So I'm doing these now so that when the rainy season in the winter comes, then it can be put to test. However, I will be loading all of these earthworks that I'm doing in this video, and when we do in workshops, I'm loading them all up with different native seeds so that when the water does come, it is going to help them germinate. And here you go. This is the trench that I was talking about, a couple feet deep, maybe like 2 feet. Again, this is all to allow water to come in. Here is the tool that I'm using. I don't want to say the name on YouTube. And lastly, I am making a circle that will host hopefully a gigantic tree in the future. If you think about it, shapes are what uphold nature itself. So I got really creative on the different types of shapes that I'm going to be putting in the ground and see how they all have a different effect. Another cool thing about using different shapes is that you'll have different habitats for different animals. And that is how you heal 2 birds with 1 herb. You start stacking these things together and you realize that everything is in cooperation with each other. Where you build food for one, you are building shelter for another. After working on it for a little bit, you can see the vision more clear now, where I plan on having a tree in the middle in sort of like an island. And whatever tree or shrub that I use, I'm going to make sure that the foliage is covering the sides around it so that, an animal can live down there, it can capture water better, and overall I think it's going to work out pretty well. I want you guys to comment below if you are seeing the vision if you are enjoying these vlogs. And I must remind you guys that everything that I'm doing, I am doing on my own. That is why I will begin hosting volunteer days very soon this summer. And everything that I'm doing it as a father of 3 and a husband to 1 and a CEO to multiple companies. This is not a project that I started for the financial benefits, although I know that they're gonna come eventually. This is a pure passion project, something that I've always wanted to do, something that I've always wanted to do for the earth and give back to her, while also giving back to the plants and the animals of the area. And lastly, I do it for my family and the generations after me, who will inherit the lands and know their connection to the lands from a very young age. So I'm grateful for it all, the ups, the downs, and all the hard work that needs to be put in to make this dream a reality.